Once, while Carrie had been sleeping in the clinic, he checked the size of her shoes. Why? And then, and I'm going to be interested in hearing what it is. Hello lovelies, welcome to another episode of Bodice Rippers. I'm your host, the charming coquette. As always, we're going to go ahead and get right into it by seeing what kind of story we have today by what is in my cup. It's a pregnancy story today, guys. So today's story is called His Pregnant Sleeping Beauty by Lynne Marshall. The back says, medical romance. Rescuing the runaway. When paramedic Joseph Matthews rescues a vulnerable pregnant woman left in a coma, he vows to be there for his sleeping beauty. Even though after his ex-wife's betrayal, everything about innocent Carrie Spencer evokes bittersweet memories, mixed with unexpected desire. As Joseph helps gorgeous Carrie recover and build a safe new future for her unborn baby, can he gather his courage to give them the happy ever after they deserve? The Hollywood Hills Clinic, where doctors to the stars work miracles by day and explore their heart's desires by night. So this is a series of books set in the same location, but all by different authors, so all they really have in common is common characters, which is interesting to me because that means someone could really just mess with your character a lot, right? Like, someone could decide that, like, oh, this wonderful character who's been a hero in so many stories, like, oh, this fancy, fantastic doctor, we're gonna decide that he's the villain of the last book because that's the one I'm writing. And you know, I should be used to series written by different people. I'm a huge Warriors fan. I'm not ashamed. Each one of those books is like a joint effort. There's all different authors and artists that work on those books, but they have an overarching plot. They're not complete. Each novel is not separate standalone books. So to me, I would worry about putting my characters into the hands of other people when they don't have a plot to follow, except their own. So since today is a mommy story, it's time for a mommy drink. I think it's time to break out the white sin. Psych! My mommy drinks rum and coke. So we start off with both of our protagonists about to collide, Carrie Spencer and Joseph Matthews. Carrie Spencer is on a bus to Hollywood and is about to get off. She's all alone. Joseph Matthews is a paramedic who owns his own business and has just finished a late night run at the behest of the clinic that he works for's doctor, who he's very good friends with, James Rothsberg. And he's just waiting alone, and we get this introduction to Joseph's character. Now at 9 p.m., back sitting in the front of the private ambulance, Joe switched on some music. Jazz, his favorite station. Yeah, he owned this bus. Hell, he owned all 6 of them, so he could play whatever music he wanted. I don't know why he's being so defensive, because so far, no character has berated him for his music choice, and no character will berate him for his music choice, so we never get why he's so irritated. A damn fine-looking young woman wearing oversized sunglasses got off. And that's our first introduction to Carrie, is that she's wearing a sweater and jeans and sunglasses, and she looks a little bit lost and alone when suddenly she is attacked by a man in an alley who is trying to steal her purse, and he attacks her with a knife and leaves her unconscious. Joe chases after and tries to fight the guy. The guy lands a knife swipe on him, but he's very damn heroic about it anyway, because he's very strong. He boxes. He's a man's man. Joe's trying to deal with the superficial knife wound he has, and they turn their attention on Carrie, who is just unconscious on the ground. And as Joe is kind of checking her over, checking for wounds, he's noticing that she has bruises up and down her arms and a black eye and other injuries that aren't fresh. So he knows that she got hurt before she got attacked in the alleyway. Joe is having his internal moment of being really pissed off with the world that this could happen to a girl literally the first 5 minutes she steps off a bus, and then Maybe it was those thick eyelashes that seemed to glue her eyes shut, or her complete vulnerability, being unconscious in an alley. Calm down, Joe. Calm down. But he's feeling immense responsibility to protect her, because she looks so fragile, just laying there, unconscious, as anyone who was knocked unconscious in an alley would look, I imagine. They start driving her to the clinic. Joe is still checking on her vital signs, and when he checks her pupils to make sure she hasn't blown one, it says, but he'd had to move a clump of her hair away from her face in order to do so. It was thick and wavy, and well, somehow it felt too intimate touching it. It'd been a while since he'd run his fingers through a woman's hair, which he definitely wasn't doing right now, but the thought of wanting to bothered him. Yeah, your desire to start petting and caressing an unconscious woman that you literally never met, you don't even know her first name, should bother you. And not bother you because you're attracted to her and you've sworn off being in relationships, but bother you that that's your reaction, just in general. And as he's looking at her, he's starting to get kind of worked up again with his anger, and there's that anger again, flaming out of nowhere for a woman he knew zero about. And I mean, as a human, I just think that if you see someone with evidence of abuse, it should make you upset. Just in general, it should just make you upset. So, and then as I was reading, after they've gotten Carrie to the clinic, Joe put his shirt back on and gingerly buttoned it over his bandaged and stinging ribcage, which made me realize he's been shirtless the whole time. Almost the whole time. Literally the moment after he got knifed, he dressed his wound, but he's been shirtless this whole time. Transporting Carrie, caressing her, checking her vital signs. He's just been half naked. Then we get a ton of exposition about Rothsberg's clinic, which feels a little bit unnecessary because this book isn't about Rothsberg. And I get that. I think it's trying to center us in the same universe as the other books in the series, so that we see that they're important players and they'll keep coming back. But again, knowing how Rothsberg started his clinic, or the kinds of people that he caters to, or the info leaks that have happened before, which, although that's slightly important, an info leak from a previous ambulance company was what landed Joe the job as a private ambulance company for this clinic. But other than that, there's so much exposition to explain stuff about the clinic that is not necessary and doesn't come up again, because Rothsberg is really only a background character who pops in and out. Although, like, we have a couple moments where it's setting up a novel about his romantic life, but it's a little bit too much. A little bit too much for me. These days, Joe didn't believe in fate or luck. No. He changed his thinking on that, and now, for him, everything happened for a reason. Even his damned infertility, which he was still trying to figure out. He glanced at the hand where his wedding ring had once been, but didn't let himself go there. Sure would be convenient to meet a beautiful pregnant woman, wouldn't it? There's no lead-up, really, to dropping the bomb that he's infertile. In the rest of the book, we'll get to it. It's clearly something that weighs on him, and he keeps it a secret from Carrie, and he doesn't really talk about it with anyone else. But instead of kind of drawing out what his secret was and just showing us ways that he's uncomfortable around pregnancy and being around pregnant women, we just get told right off the bat. No, apropos of nothing. He's infertile. And then more description on Dr. Rothsberg, who's now patching Joe up. And we're just being treated to how gorgeous he is and how he's an Adonis in scrubs. And Joe wasn't afraid to admit he had a man crush on the guy. Aw, strictly platonic. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Good thing you've got a trained plastic surgeon to stitch you up. I'd hate to ruin those perfect washboard abs. When he gets injected with anesthetic, he flinches and says, ouch. And the doctor says, man up, I'm just getting started. That got an ironic laugh out of Joe. Yeah, sterile dude. Man up. Which, I don't think the doctor meant it that way. Joe has a lot of feelings of his masculinity being threatened due to the fact that he's infertile. I don't know. To me, it's baffling I think maybe I think it's because I don't have this experience, but I've met women who can't have children, and while sometimes it makes them sad, they don't fully stake everything that it means to be a woman on the fact that they can't have children. I know it's a blow. Absolutely. I absolutely know it's a blow and it's important. But Joe is super duper hung up on the fact that he's not as much of a man, and he's threatened by anything that makes him feel like less of a man. It's unfortunate. It's a message that I don't particularly care for. The idea that being able to create a child makes you more or less of a man or a woman. James finishes stitching up Joe and says, if I stitch this up just so, there'll hardly be a scar. On the other hand, I can make you look like you've got a 7-pack, which was very concerning to me because I don't know where the 7th one would go. So Joe starts hanging around Carrie's room. Now, no one knows what her name is yet. She's unconscious. She's in a coma. And as Joe starts kind of checking over her charts, his gaze settled on a crazy little test result that nearly knocked him out of the chair. A positive pregnancy test. He'll gasp! And it makes him realize that she must have been running from something, because she still obviously has the bruises that show that she's been hurt in the past before she got mugged. And now this pregnancy test makes him wonder if she's running away from a guy that doesn't know she's pregnant, or if she's running because she's pregnant. And then we reveal he'd once been on that pregnancy roller coaster ride. One day ecstatic about the prospect of becoming a father. Another day, further down the line, getting a different lab test, irrefutably stating that there was no way in hell he could have gotten his wife pregnant. He needed to leave the clinic. James had been right. He should go home and get some sleep, because if he didn't, he might do something he still wanted to do desperately. Give his best, strike that, ex-best friend, the beating he deserved. And on the 3rd day, Jane Doe rose from the dead. And she's freaked out, naturally. She's in a hospital, she doesn't know what's going on. She's afraid that someone named Ross is out to hurt her. She turned her head to a shadow looming above her. It had features. The face she remembered. It had features. The face she remembered from her dreams. Strong. Brave. Was this still a dream? She stared at him, her breathing rapid, waiting for eyes to adjust to the light. He was the man who'd taken on her attacker. She scanned his face. Kind brown eyes. Short dark hair. A square jaw. Good looking. Girl, you just woke up from a coma. So she's looking around, realizing that she's in a hospital, and realizing that she recognizes the position that she's in because she's an RN herself. So she knows about the IAB, she knows she's got a catheter on, she recognizes what's going on, and then remembers her baby. And she and Joe have a crying moment when he lets her know that the baby is okay. They share this beautiful emotional moment out of nowhere. So things start moving quickly. Joe realizes he needs to leave the room, let people get to work, notify the police were notified. Joe didn't want to stick around where he had no business, though. In his heart, he felt he deserved to know the whole story, which, no, you want to know. You don't need to know. So the doctors let Joe know that since everything's going well, they're going to have to discharge Carrie, even though she doesn't remember where she is, or who she is, really, or have anywhere to go, or any money, or any documentation. And so Joe automatically offers that he can take her in, because he has a spare room. And Dr. Rothsberg is like, yeah, I'll vouch for you being a gentleman, and also a stranger. Yeah, it would be weird to bring a strange lady into his home, especially one who continuously made his nerve endings and synapses react as if she waved some invisible magnetic wand. Control your hormones. So now we get Carrie's perspective, and she's obviously nervous about going off with this person that she literally just met, even though she knows that he rescued her and helped her out and has been keeping watch over her and is very nice. But recent history proved she couldn't necessarily trust her instincts, but she still had a good feeling about the paramedic. Ugh. The first thing he heard after she'd gone to a room had been the shower being turned on, and the image that planted in his head needed to be erased. Fast. So he decided to work out with his hanging punch bag in the screened-in patio. He changed clothes, headed to the back of the house, turned on a John Coltrane set, his favorite music to hit the bag with. Okay. And then he just starts going to town on his punching bag. Like, he's got his shirt off, he's grunting, he's manly, and he's mad. And he's mad about everyone who's ever been hit, everyone who's ever been mugged, everyone who's ever been hurt. He's mad about his wife sleeping with his best friend and getting pregnant. And he's just wailing on the bag and letting all of his frustrations out. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, you just brought a strange woman into your house who, at the very least, you assume is escaping an abusive relationship. She has a black eye. She has bruises all over her arms. And a smart thing to do is to engage in something that looks very violent. Now, I'm not saying that he can't do what he wants in his own home, but he invited her. When you invite someone to your home, someone who is your guest, it's up to you to be cognizant and conscious and considerate. But Carrie's not put out by this. She just remarks that the music sounds like fighting, asks if she can make herself a sandwich, and they're a little bit awkward around each other, and she's kind of trying not to stare at she's trying not to stare at his shirtless chest, and he's a little bit self-conscious because he realizes he's shirtless around her and she doesn't know him and he doesn't know her, and the last woman he was shirtless around was his ex-wife. She offers to make him a sandwich, and then apropos of nothing says, I never got morning sickness like most women do. I've been ravenous from the beginning, so you're getting the works. She's pregnant, by the way, in case we forgot. Joe remarks, what did I say earlier? Mi casa es su casa. It's a California rule. Make yourself at home, okay? Though he said it, he wasn't anywhere near ready to meaning it. Then you shouldn't have offered your home. He knew without a doubt she was really grateful to be here, and that made the nearly constant awkward feeling about living with a complete stranger, a woman more appealing than he cared to admit, worth it. Ew. Carrie keeps being polite and a good house guest by asking before she uses things and asking before she does things in the house, and he keeps basically being like, remember, mi casa es tuya. Even though he really doesn't mean it and he's uncomfortable with her, and we get, what was it about this girl that made him feel so damn uncomfortable? She hot. Oh, and another thing I didn't mention. Every couple of pages, like while they're interacting with each other, it mentions that he's grinding his teeth. So, like, his dental bill is gonna be huge. While Joe is thinking that his attraction to Carrie is one-sided and having a crisis over how he can't possibly like a woman right now and couldn't possibly invite another person into his life, Carrie's having a crisis of her own. Wow. His lean body had showcased every muscle in his arms and across his back as he punched. His movements had been fluid and nothing short of perfection. Not to mention his washboard stomach and powerful legs. The guy didn't have an ounce of fat on him. Oh no, he's hot. Maybe he'd come off aloof or unapproachable at times, but she had no idea how nearly unbearable it was to fix meals with her when it reminded him how much he missed being married. Which, that sounds like a you problem. So much of this book is internal agonizing. It feels like there's a lot less like actual action or discussion between the characters, and a lot of internal exposition and agonizing over how they're being perceived by each other and what their past is making them feel about the situation they're in now. So they've been talking about Carrie getting her RN license from Illinois reinstated in California so she can find a job in one of the many hospitals that are around. Joe offers to get her a job at the clinic and putting in a good word with Dr. Rothsberg for her. She's happy about that, but also worried because she says that means she'll have to quit her job back home. And then Joe was sure he was missing out on another story, probably something huge, like who she was running away from, and would they come after her? If only he could get her to open up. This was stuff he needed to know if he expected to protect her, and I'm like, oh my god, you know what's a novel idea? Talk to her. As a fun, not couple activity, Joe suggests to Carrie that he teach her how to box, which is fun, but I'm sure you can see where this is going. And to redirect after they've been staring at each other and teasing and bantering and whatever else sexy people do. So he started again, sounding nonchalant. Another good idea, if a bad guy only wants your wallet, is to reach into your purse, grab your wallet, throw it as far away as you can. Street smarts! And after this whole sparring session, Carrie feels comfortable enough with Joe to open up about what happened in her past, telling him that she was with a very possessive, abusive man who started to isolate her from her family and friends, and she didn't realize anything was wrong until the moment he started getting abusive with her, and says, I ran away the night he handed me a wad of money and told me to take care of it, as if my baby was a problem that needed fixing. He didn't want to share me with anyone, not even our kid. So she's just shared with him, and she ends this by thanking him and telling him how she owes her life to him, and he saved her and her baby, and that she's grateful, but that she's confused and scared still. And Joe says, I get it, believe me, I understand how life-changing a baby can be. And just when that gives him a moment to maybe open up to her a little bit and say that he was previously married and things didn't work out, he shuts it down and then also lets her know that he finds her attractive and there's nothing he can do about it and he knows it's wrong. Which is a lot. She's 25. I'm 25. Ugh. The cargo pants, though loose and loaded with useful pockets filled with EMS stuff, no doubt, still managed to showcase his fine derriere. No. Carrie goes ahead and attends her first parenting class, and she decides to sit at the back of the room so it's still easy to go ahead and sneak out in case she needs to. But then decides she's not that person anymore. She's turned in her victim badge. Let me just remind you, it has been a full 10 days from the day she got off the bus and was put into a coma and then went to go live with a stranger. Which, so that's a weird message. Joe shows up to the class and he goes ahead and starts taking it with Carrie so that she won't be alone. But at the same point, he's still being super cagey about his past and wanting to make sure that she never knows anything about what he went through. Which, again, he's had all this internal struggle with how he wants to know what's happened in her life, and he feels a desire and that he deserves to know what's happened to her. He doesn't extend that same courtesy to her. Carrie's baby teacher has her on a very strict diet, even though she really, 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 really wants junk food. All she wants is salt and vinegar chips, or corn chips, or any kind of chips, and she rationalized that if occasionally she only brought the small luncheon-sized bag, she wouldn't do the baby any harm, or her hips. The baby needs salt. They're having dinner, they're just kind of chatting, having a good time. Things start to get a bit serious. Joe lets out that his wife left him. Carrie hopes that talking about herself a little bit more and sharing a bit more will make Joe be a bit more forthcoming. Joe tries to assuage her fears and compliment her and let her know that she's a good person and let her know that she's better off in California rather than back in Illinois with this horrible, horrible man. So things are nice and cozy, and she's just kind of like, what are we, Joe? She says that exactly. She just goes, what are we, Joe? And I want to know too, what are you guys? And he immediately backs up and goes, God, no, Carrie, come on. You're overthinking things, making problems where there aren't any. We're friends. We can't call ourselves friends if you won't open up to me. And they start cleaning up in silence, and Carrie's realizing that this has been a huge misstep and that perhaps they push each other further away from each other, and she thinks, but what should she expect? Being pregnant with another man's baby. I don't know. Your friend to be open with you? Meanwhile, Carrie gets a call from the social worker at the hospital letting her know that she has some housing for her to look at. So Carrie decides to go out with Joe to check out an apartment. And Joe is automatically grinding his molars, which, stop ruining your teeth, Joe. And Joe is realizing that if Carrie was offered a rent voucher, he would push her to take that option, because having a woman in his house again, especially a pregnant woman, brought back 100 different and all equally awful memories. Which, I haven't stated this before, this is every couple of pages. Every couple of pages of the internal agonizing is Joe reflecting on the fact that having a woman in the house is like having his ex-wife back again, and it's stirring up a lot of emotions that he doesn't care to have again, and a lot of memories that are hurtful and painful. Plus, with Carrie living with him, and this is literally same paragraph, plus with Carrie living with him, it seemed Angela had moved back in just in a different form. Which, again, we know. Joe has a lot of shit to work out, because this isn't Carrie's fault. When they go to see the apartment that's being offered to Carrie, Joe doesn't like it. Joe decides he doesn't actually want Carrie to leave and offers for her to stay with him. Carrie starts her job at the clinic. "See you later," he said, making a U-turn and heading off to the ward. The perfectly fitting light blue polo shirt showed off his broad shoulders, accentuating his trim waist. The multi-purpose khaki cargo pants still managed to hug his buns just right, and those sexy as hell black paramedic utility boots. Brrr. He turned her on. It was so confusing, which, he's sexy, it's not that deep. They're going about their usual nightly routines around each other, and she's watching him punch his punching bag, and it's just doing stuff to her. So she brings him some water, and she's just staring at his sexy, sexy body. They get very, very close to each other, staring into each other's eyes. So she edged closer, lifted her chin, and though feeling breathy from nerves, she went for it, covering his mouth with a full-on kiss. Yes! Oh my god, yes! Final heel, oh my god, go for it! Do it! She rushed to him, and he picked her up again, her cooler skin crashing with his hot, damp flesh. He carried her to his bed and, probably because she was pregnant, laid her down gently. Frantic for him, she'd have none of that, pulling him firmly towards her and impatiently bucked under him. She slid her awakened center. Maybe it was the added hormones of pregnancy, and more probably it was the undivided attention from Joe, but she'd never, ever been this turned on in her life. With her entire body tingling and covered in goosebumps running hot with sensations, not to mention the involuntary sounds escaping her throat. There would be no guessing on his part how he made her feel. Frickin' amazing! Which is eloquent. Beautifully eloquent. So Carrie wakes up with Joe not being there, and he basically is just like, yeah, this was a mistake. We can never do this again. It's not the right time for us. It's never gonna work out. Devastated. She's devastated. And she says, but in the meantime, can I borrow your car so I can get to my parent craft class? And he goes, yeah, I'm going too, but you can drive if you want. Which, how dare you, you asshole? You just told this woman that as much as you want her and you like her and she's amazing, you can never be together and it would never work out. There's too much going on. You broke her heart completely, and now you're like, but no, you don't get to have any distance from me. But she stands her ground. She's like, oh, I don't think so. He goes, well, I know so. Because you forget things, and 2 sets of ears are better than 1, especially since you're probably already distracted from everything I pulled on you this morning. What a dick! Oh my god! He's such a dick, I can't get over it. In this moment, he's like, hi, I know I just tore your whole world apart, and I know you're feeling awkward and need some space from me, but I'm not going to respect when you ask for space from me. No way would she let on to Joe how tough each and every minute spent with him was for her. She did it to hold out for a bigger reward, but so far he wasn't showing any signs of opening up or changing. Girl, get out of there! Like, this is her new plan, is she's realized, she's decided, you know what? Even though it hurts, Joe is perfect for me, and I'm perfect for him, so I'm just gonna stick around until he figures it out. He's only being more physically close to her, which is weird, because before they'd slept together, he was all distance, 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 you can't know anything about me. Physically being near you is bad for me. And there's a cute story that Carrie learns about how the men in Joe's family have a homemade peach ice cream recipe, and they make it for the women they love as a mating ritual. These are bird wings, guys. These are, I'm doing a courtship dance. And then while the fireworks are going off, Joe and Carrie are holding on to each other, but he's caressing her side and looking at her, and the fireworks are going off, and it's very romantic. and her baby moves for the first time. Joe's keeping in his agonizing internally. He's created a lot of his own problems, just saying. Though he knew he shouldn't, he tiptoed to the screen door and studied her up close, afraid to breathe so as not to wake her. A real sleeping beauty. Creep. And he's getting upset because he's thinking about how much he wants her for himself and how it's a stupid fantasy, which he's the problem. She didn't say she didn't want to be with him. She wants to be with him. She wants it so much. She's so young. I'm identifying with her a little bit too much, partially because we're the same age. And I'm like, baby, I know what it's like to have your heart broken. And while Carrie is working, the ward nurse comes up to her and is like, Carrie, someone sent you beautiful flowers. So Carrie goes out and there's a gorgeous, gorgeous arrangement. But there's an unsigned note that just says these flowers are as lovely as you. And I'm sure you can tell my immediate thought was, this is definitely from the ex, because he's only been mentioned in passing throughout this whole story, that he was just a possessive, horrible guy and that Carrie needed to get away from, and that he hurt her and didn't want to share her with anybody, and he's awful, 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 awful person. He's not going to do anything out and out romantic like send her flowers when he's trying to be like, no, I have to disabuse myself of all notions that we're going to be together. And he's like, you don't think you have a secret admirer? You're gorgeous. And she's like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, but you're gorgeous. And she's like, I wear scrubs to work every day. Elliot says, was that a look of jealousy on his face? Joe hadn't felt this jealous in a long time. So Joe's agonizing over who could have sent Carrie flowers and why he feels jealous. When he found out who it was, he'd have an in-your-face moment and straighten out any misunderstandings. Carrie is off limits. Got that? Fuck you, Joe. Fuck you. No, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you, Chief. And he just keeps thinking to himself, Carrie is off limits. Carrie is off limits. And whenever he finds out who sent the flowers, he's gonna kick their ass. Was he being territorial when he had no right to be? Yes. It's too hot. Anyway. Did she expect Joe to be a saint on top of everything wonderful about him and welcome her into his life with open arms? She should have left well enough alone. Like, this isn't your fault. It's so hot. Oh no. Nope, I'm wearing makeup. That was dumb. After Carrie does some internal agonizing, she's like, if you don't want anything to do with me anymore, why were you jealous? He's like, jealous? I've never, what does that word mean? I don't speak English. And he immediately just grabs her, and plants a breathtaking kiss on her. I am jealous. Damn it. But pushes her away again, and she's like, and she says, you can't do this to me, Joe. When he reveals to her that he's sterile, she thinks, how could that be? He was a healthy, magnificent specimen of a man, but she knew to keep her thoughts to herself. And I'm like, that means nothing. Carrie's finally like, you know what? I can't make this work. This is never gonna work. There's no point in trying. She's like, I'll be gone by the end of the week. So she's moved out, and she realizes she accidentally took the clothes that Joe loaned her from his sister with her. So she's gotta go return him. Only a few feet away, Ross. I knew it! She tells him under no uncertain terms that he needs to leave. And at first he looks defeated and he's like a shadow of his former self and he's about to leave. But then he turns around and grabs her wrist and goes to slap her, but she remembers everything and incapacitates him, punches him straight in the larynx. I'm so proud of her. I'm so happy. And he gets out and he stands behind her and is like, do as Carrie says. Just stand up and leave. Don't ever come back. And so Joe holds Carrie, lets her know that he's sorry for what he said to her. And he loves her. And he's like, gonna name her Peaches because I'm gonna make you the famous family recipe peach ice cream. And that's how it ends. By him promising to make her peach ice cream, and that they're gonna be together and they love each other, and she doesn't care whether they get brothers and sisters for the baby she's about to have now. One thing I want to cover before I go is that this, like his Pregnant Sleeping Beauty, to me covers an interesting genre in romance novels. A woman who's the main female protagonist start out the story pregnant. Generally in these stories, the woman is pregnant and is having some kind of generally she's running from an abusive relationship or something like that, or she's in peril in some way. And I think, so often with romantic stories, they fulfill certain needs or fantasies. And right here, the need that is being fulfilled is for someone who is pregnant to still feel that they are desirable, to still feel that they can be wanted, that becoming pregnant doesn't take away their identity as an adult being with their own feelings and desires and emotions, that becoming a parent does not supersede. I've totally lost the word that I wanted to use. Agency. That is a need that I think that sometimes people who are pregnant, they want to know. They want to know that they're gonna be loved, that they're still attractive, that they haven't lost themselves. So, I'm a lightweight. I have to go. I hope you had a lot of fun. So, goodbye. Rum and Coca-Cola, go down Point Coma.